Sometimes, after a man turns 60 years old, a very quiet and deep change happens inside of him. For his whole life, he might have been the one everyone could count on. He was the person who always answered his phone, no matter what time it was. He was the one who showed up whenever a friend or a family member needed a hand. He was the glue that kept the family together, the person who fixed the broken things in the house, and the one who handled everyone else's problems without ever letting out a single sigh of complaint. He carried the heavy weight of being responsible for others for a very long time. But then, almost like a light switch being turned off, he seems to disappear. There are no big fights, no shouting matches, and no long letters explaining why he is leaving. He does not make a dramatic exit or say a long, sad goodbye. Instead, there is just silence. If you have ever looked at an older man and wondered why he suddenly stopped talking to people he used to be close with, or why he walked away from relationships he spent years building, you are not alone. It can feel confusing to see someone who was once so involved suddenly choose to be by himself. You might wonder why, once he makes that choice, he almost never looks back or changes his mind. The reason this happens is much more important than it looks on the surface. For many men who have reached this stage of life, choosing to step away is not a sudden, angry act. It is not about being mean or acting like a child. In fact, it is often the very last step of a journey that started many, many years ago. By the time a man reaches 60, he has seen a lot of life. He has felt the sting of people letting him down, the hurt of being lied to, and the stress of family arguments that never seem to end. He has spent years worrying about money, feeling like no one really cares how he feels, and realizing that not every person he was kind to was kind back. When men are younger, they often believe that any problem can be fixed if they just try a little harder or talk a little longer. But as men get older, they start to see things differently. They reach a point where they stop trying to explain themselves over and over. They stop trying to make deals or win people over. They stop trying to convince others that they are worth being treated well. Instead of fighting for a seat at the table, they quietly get up and leave the room. Once you see the real reasons why this happens, it will change the way you think about growing older and the way you look at the men in your life. One of the biggest reasons this happens is a feeling of being completely worn out in the heart. This is not the kind of tired you feel after a long day of yard work or a busy week at the office. This is a much heavier kind of tired. It is the exhaustion that comes from decades of taking care of everyone else while no one seemed to notice how hard it was. For most of their lives, men are told they have to be the ones who provide the money, protect the house, and solve every single crisis that pops up. They are told they must be strong and never show if they are sad or scared. If someone needed help, they were expected to be there. If there was a big problem, they were the ones who had to fix it. If life got really hard, they were supposed to just keep going and never complain. After 40 or 50 years of this, that weight starts to feel like a mountain. Many older men realize that while they spent every ounce of their energy helping others, very few people ever took a moment to ask them how they were doing. Their own feelings were always put on the back burner because everyone else's problems seemed more important. After a lifetime of being last on their own list, something inside them finally clicks. By the time they hit 60, they feel like they have given out enough second chances. They have given enough explanations and made enough sacrifices for one life. They simply do not want to keep proving their worth to people who only seem to like them when they are getting something from them. This is why walking away does not feel like a bad thing to them. It feels like a huge weight being lifted off their shoulders. They are finally done trying to make everyone else happy. They are finally looking after the one thing they have left, which is their own peace and quiet. For these men, saying goodbye is not about being mean to others. It is about being kind to themselves for the very first time. The truth is that most of these men spent decades believing that if they just worked harder, loved more, or gave one more chance, everything would work out. But life taught them a different lesson. It showed them that some people will take and never give anything back. It showed them that loyalty is not always returned, that kindness is not always appreciated, and that being a good man does not guarantee you will be treated well. Another big reason is that they finally stop believing that working harder will change who a person is. This is a lesson that takes a long time to learn. When a man is young, he thinks that if he just says the right words, stays patient enough, or gives one more gift, a difficult relationship will get better. He has hope that people will change their ways if he just keeps trying. But a man in his 60s has seen the same story play out 1,000 times. He has seen people make promises they never kept. He has forgiven the same mistakes over and over until he lost count. He has listened to people say they are sorry, only to watch them do the exact same thing the next day. After living through this for so long, he starts to see the truth much faster. He pays attention to what people do, not just what they say. This is why it looks like they make a snap decision to leave. To someone on the outside, it looks like they just woke up and quit. But in their minds, they have been watching and waiting for a very long time. When an older man sees someone being disrespectful, trying to boss him around, or playing games with his emotions, he does not want to waste his breath arguing. He does not believe that one more talk is going to change that person's heart. Instead of trying to mend a relationship that keeps breaking, he just removes himself from the situation entirely. People might think he is being cold or grumpy, but that is not it at all. He is just being smart. He has learned what many young men do not know yet, which is that you cannot build a good life with someone who does not want to grow or change. Once he realizes this, he stops making excuses for others. He chooses to walk away rather than be disappointed one more time. He has become a student of human behavior, and his years have taught him that actions always reveal the truth. Words can be beautiful, and promises can sound wonderful, but they mean nothing if they are not backed up by real change. An older man has been burned too many times by empty words to believe them anymore. There is also a very big change in how a man sees himself once he gets past 60. For most of his life, his identity was tied to what he did for other people. He was a husband, a father, a worker, or the guy everyone called when something went wrong. Those labels were who he was for a long time. But eventually, those things start to matter less. He starts asking himself what he wants to do with the years he has left. He does not want to be famous or popular or the most important man in the room. He just wants peace. He wants a life that is calm and quiet. And once a man decides he wants peace, he becomes very protective of it. He has a very short fuse for things like constant complaining, drama, or people who are never satisfied. Those things do not feel like problems to be solved anymore. They feel like heavy rocks he is tired of carrying. This is why people get so shocked when a man they have known for years suddenly pulls away. They think he has become a hermit or that he is angry at the world. But the truth is, he has been changing for a long time, and he finally decided that his own happiness is more important than making sure everyone else is comfortable. Younger men might stay in a bad situation because they are afraid of what people will think, but older men value a calm mind more than anything else. They know that every argument and every stressful relationship takes a toll on their health. At this age, that cost is just too high to pay, so they just move on quietly. No big scene, no noise, just a quiet choice to live the rest of their days in the peace they worked so hard to earn. Another sad but true thing many men learn after 60 is that some people only liked them for what they could provide. For years, they were the ones who paid the bills and fixed the cars and gave the best advice. As long as they were giving, people were happy to be around them. But the moment they started saying no, or the moment they decided to do something for themselves, those people started acting differently. This is a very painful thing to realize. An older man might notice that his friends or family only call him when they need a loan, a favor, or someone to bail them out of trouble. No one calls just to see how he is doing anymore. They still expect him to be the same helper he always was, but they do not show him the same love back. At first, he might try to ignore it, but eventually the pattern becomes too clear to miss. He starts to ask himself if these people would even be there if he had nothing left to give. Do they care about him, or do they just care about what he can do for them? Once he asks those questions, the relationship is never the same. Unlike a younger man who might get loud and angry about being used, an older man usually just gets quiet. He watches and he thinks. And when he is done thinking, he does not make a speech. He just steps back. To everyone else, it feels sudden. To him, it feels like he is finally seeing clearly. He is not going to spend his final years being an ATM or a 24-hour repairman for people who do not truly love him for who he is inside. This realization can be heartbreaking, but it is also freeing. It allows him to stop chasing relationships that were never real to begin with. Also, by the time a man is 60, he has absolutely no room left for disrespect. This is something younger people often forget. When a man is 20 or 30, he might let someone talk down to him or ignore his feelings because he wants to keep the relationship going. He tells himself it is not a big deal. He hopes that if he stays nice, they will eventually treat him better. But after 60 years, he knows that disrespect does not go away on its own. If someone treats you like you do not matter, they will probably keep doing it forever. Older men stop looking at these moments as one-time mistakes. They see them as a sign of who that person really is. They are not being mean or grumpy, they are just done being treated poorly. They know that keeping their own dignity is much more important than keeping a friend who does not respect them. Many people think these men are lonely or sad, but most of the time, they are actually much happier being alone than being somewhere they are not valued. Being alone is peaceful. Being disrespected is painful. At this stage of life, dignity is everything. A young man might be afraid to lose a friend, but an old man has learned that losing your self-respect is much worse. Once he feels that his respect is gone, he does not argue. He just walks away. Not because he wants to get back at anyone, but because he knows he is worth more than that. He has spent too many years building his character to let anyone tear it down now. His dignity is the one thing he will not negotiate on anymore. As men get older, they also become very picky about who they spend time with. This does not mean they hate people. It just means they know their time is valuable. They stop looking for a lot of friends and start looking for a few good ones. When they were younger, they put up with people who were draining or always caused drama because they thought that was just how life was. But now, they do not see any point in being around people who leave them feeling tired. They want stability and honesty. They do not want to play games or have to explain themselves all the time. They just want to be around people who are kind and easy to be with. This is why some people think older men are being antisocial. But really, they are just being careful. They have not stopped caring about people. They have just stopped spending their energy on people who do not care about them in return. The people who stay in an older man's life are the ones who bring him joy and calm. Everyone else is just extra noise that he does not need anymore. For many men, this is not about being lonely. It is about choosing a better life. They know that one real friend is worth more than 100 fake ones. Once they feel the peace of having a small, loving circle, they never want to go back to the chaos of the past. Quality has replaced quantity in every area of their lives, and they would not have it any other way. The final reason why this happens is probably the one that people understand the least. Many think older men pull away because they stopped caring about others. But the real truth is that they finally started caring about themselves. For their whole lives, they put everyone else first. They gave their time to their families, their energy to their jobs, and their peace to their friends. They said yes when they wanted to say no. They carried everyone else's problems until their backs were sore. They thought that being a good man meant never thinking about themselves. But after 60, they finally stop and ask a simple but powerful question. They ask, "Who has been taking care of me?" That one question changes everything. They see that they should have set boundaries a long time ago. They see how much it cost them to keep everyone else happy while they were struggling. They realize that protecting their own heart is not being selfish. It is being smart. This is why they walk away so quietly. They are not trying to hurt anyone or get revenge. They are just refusing to live a life where they are always the last person considered. Some people think these men do not want any friends at all, But that is not true. They still want love and connection. They just do not want relationships that feel like a job or a chore. They do not want to be made to feel guilty or manipulated. They have reached a point where peace and mutual respect are the only things that matter. The biggest truth of all is that senior men do not cut people off because they are filled with hate. They do it because, after a lifetime of putting themselves last, they finally decided they deserve the same kindness they spent 60 years giving to everyone else. They are not cold or heartless. They are simply tired of being taken for granted. They have learned that the world will take everything you have if you let it, and they have decided to stop letting it. They have chosen themselves, and that is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be respected. It takes great courage to walk away from what is familiar, even when it is painful. It takes even more courage to do it quietly, without seeking sympathy or making a scene. These men have lived full lives. They have seen joy and sorrow, triumph and defeat. They have loved deeply and lost painfully. They have worked hard and sacrificed much. And now, in the final chapters of their story, they want to write the ending on their own terms. They want to spend their remaining days surrounded by peace, not chaos. They want to be with people who genuinely care about them, not people who only show up when they need something. They want to enjoy the simple pleasures of life without constantly being drained by the demands of others. This is not bitterness. This is wisdom. This is a man who has finally learned that his life has value, and he is determined to protect it. If you are watching this and you recognize yourself in this story, know that you are not alone. There are thousands of men who feel exactly the way you do. And if you are watching this because you have a man in your life who has pulled away, I hope this helps you understand why. It is not about you being a bad person. It is about him finally choosing to be good to himself. The best thing you can do is respect his decision and show him that you value him for who he is, not just for what he can do for you. Before I close, I want to ask you something important. If this message spoke to you, if it helped you understand yourself or someone you love a little better, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Hitting that subscribe button helps me reach more people who need to hear these words. It helps me continue creating content that speaks to the real struggles and truths of life. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you who joins this community brings me closer to that dream. So if you found value here today, please subscribe, share this video with someone who needs it, and leave a comment letting me know your thoughts. Your support means the world to me, and together we can build a community where real conversations happen and real understanding grows. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to our next conversation.